Let's start seated. Something where you can land that allows you to breathe. Where you can feel comfortable against the weight of existence. And if it's right for you, we can let the eyes close. As you slow down, start to tune in to the musculature. See if that musculature has any spots of tension. Hot spots being the jaw, the shoulders. But expanding that scan so that you work your way through the entirety of the body. And every time you come across within your awareness musculature that could be relaxed, let's relax that. Just scanning and then maybe re-scanning if you get to it throughout the body musculature, making sure or allowing the opportunity to build a real conscious connection between your awareness and the soft tissue mobilizing your body. Feeling how the breath itself interacts with that musculature and how that changes tension, relaxation. And we'll give ourselves just about 60 more seconds here. And then when it feels appropriate, we'll let the eyes blink open. If they're closed, softly receive some light. And then when it feels appropriate, let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. Crafting your solid base position here. Thinking about that spinal column alignment and awareness. laying the fingers out wide and rooting down, building that elevation of energy up from the hands. And the next time that you exhale out, let's round the middle of the back, tuck the chin and tuck the tailbone. For a little flexion, articulation. And then we'll inhale, use that inhale to pull the belly down, lift the tailbone, lift the chin for this extension articulation. And move here with your breath. Exhales that press you into flexion. Inhales that pull you into extension. And as you're moving, and as you're syncing the movement with breath, allow that same body scan to travel through you so that as you come across musculature that could be relaxed, we relax it. Most of the time, we'll find it harder to scan as we mobilize. So maybe pick an area of the body to start with and travel to the opposite edges, all the while keeping that primary awareness, that primary focus, that primary desire to identify musculature that is gripping, catching, or holding, and then releasing it. Let's do 2 more times in each direction. So we really give ourselves a nice exploration of the spine here and of the soft tissue that enables us to mobilize the spine. And then eventually, when you feel complete, let's sink right back into child's pose. Child's pose here is offering a reset. So landing and then thinking what adjustments are necessary to help come back into integration, to find that neutrality of the spine. So maybe that's core engagement, maybe that is complete disengagement and utter relaxation, or somewhere in between. But find what will give you what you need here. And let's offer that. And we'll give ourselves just 30 more seconds, just resetting, reintegrating, and preparing for our more movement-oriented portion of the class. And then when it feels appropriate, let's let our hands grip into the mat in front of us. We'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees, tabletop. From hands and knees, tabletop. Curl our toes, lift our seat, and roll our way back into down dog. Driving, elevating, and elongating the spine. And sway your hips a little here. A little lateral exploration off that center column. And then eventually we'll let the tailbone come back to neutral and we'll walk our way forward into fold. Inhaling into half lift. Exhaling back into your fold, allowing your body to hang here, to release here, to completely let go here. And then we'll drift the awareness to the sacrum and roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Coming all the way up to a vertical mountain, letting the hands come together at heart center. As the hands settle at that heart center point, allow for that body scan to travel through you again and think about where you have the opportunity to relax. And then thinking about keeping that idea of relaxation and knowing that we need a stability axis, let's slide our left foot straight back into lunge. Good, strong, anchored back leg, good, strong, anchored front leg. And at the same time, we're soft and we're fluid. Splay the toes out. And then let's step forward. And we'll refine mountain. Relax once again, scan once again. Find that ability to be at ease. And then with that ease, we slide the right foot back. We land in lunge. We think about the strength without locking up. We're really still fluid and easy, even if we're rock solid engaged. And then let's step forward to find mountain. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Shift our weight forward into plank and lower ourselves down to our belly. Flip the tops of the feet. Keep the hands right underneath the shoulders. Squeeze those elbows in. Flex the quads so we get that quad or that kneecap lift. And then just push the toes towards the back of your room. Relax, slide your hands underneath your forehead for a little crocodile pose. Little breath as we re-anchor here. We'll give ourselves just about 20 more seconds. Just easy, fluid, settling. And then when it feels appropriate, hands slide back underneath the shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, let's send our left leg straight back and anchor that toe mound. Think about that, building that strength there. And then the right toe mound is going to curl under as well. And we'll just roll back into this little modified down dog. From here, using the strength and the balance of that left leg, we'll push the right foot forward and find lunge. And then sweep ourselves up into crescent. A traditional full expression here. Ground the left heel, roll open to warrior two. Anchor and broaden. And then spin that left heel up. We'll come back into crescent. Float the hands down to the mat. Step the right foot back into down dog. Come down to hands and knees tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Inhale, pull yourself back to tabletop. Send the right leg straight back and behind you, anchoring that toe mound. Bring your left toe mound to an active position. Use that strength to just roll back into a modified version of down dog. Think about the strength and balance across the right toe mound as you slide the left foot forward. Sweep ourselves up into crescent. Sleeping yourself up into crescent would be dangerous. Think about that stability. Roll the right heel down. Find warrior two. Good, strong, expansive space. Right heel spins up. We're back to crescent. Float the hands down to the mat. Step the left foot back into down dog. Come down to hands and knees tabletop, flip the tops of the feet, and sink back into child's pose. Land in child's pose, and then inhale and pull yourself forward to tabletop. From tabletop, curl your toes, lift your seat, and refine down dog. Try to find a little bit of extra space, like you're just corkscrewing that tailbone back into the maximum length. And then we'll walk our way forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Awareness to the sacrum. Let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Coming into a stabilized mountain, hands together at heart center. Relax across the shoulders. Really think about ease here. Left foot slides back into lunge. Left heel grounds. And then slide your right leg back into triangle leg alignment. So we have a nice open front leg and hands together at heart center. We're going to turn towards the left shoulder, left elbow. So rolling like we're headed backwards here. And then come back to neutral. And this should be much easier. We're going towards that front leg, that open leg. So we're working with the hips here as opposed to against them. And then back. And then we're going towards that left shoulder once again, the backwards way against the hips, really rotating the entirety of the torso. And back to neutral. And then open to that front space. From the front space, we're just going to push forward into warrior two. Excuse me, warrior one. Sorry. So torso is forward, shoulders are forward, hips are forward. This should be a very open warrior one. You can have hands extended or hands at heart center, whatever feels right. We're really just trying to experience this hip space. And then eventually our left heel will spin up and we'll step forward. Get some nice hip room as we settle. When it feels appropriate, when it feels right, right foot slides straight back. Grounding the right heel, opening that medial line and then peeling back in the front leg. Once we set that triangle leg alignment, we're headed towards the right side this time. So rolling back towards that right elbow, right shoulder. Trying to feel the breath here, and then back to neutral, and then we'll roll to that front way. Here we have the openness of the hips, so it should feel relatively easy, especially in comparison. Back to neutral, and then back towards that right elbow, right shoulder. A lot of twist in the spine here because the hips are locked in. Back to neutral, back to forward, and then we're going to head towards warrior one. So it's just a bend of the front knee. And then we should have a nice openness. We can pull back in this anterior hip crease, but the reality is we should be wide open for this space. Eventually that right heel is going to spin up and we'll step forward. Oh, that's nice. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Drive that hip energy up. Think about maximizing that distance, pulling back from that tailbone or lifting into the anterior hip crease. And then we'll come down to hands and knees, flip the tops of the feet, and sink back into a well-deserved child's pose. Again, the choice of activation or non-activation, whatever feels the most beneficial for you, is what we should do. Looking to bring the hips back into integration somewhat, but we should be pretty well aligned there. And we'll just give ourselves about 30 more seconds to just settle. When it feels appropriate, we'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees, tabletop. And from tabletop, let's curl our toes, lift our seat, and find our way back into down dog. Little sway of the hips. See if we found a little bit more space from the first time through. And then we'll bring our tailbone back to neutral, walk our way forward into fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. We'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Bring our hands together, heart center. Breathe our way into this space. When it feels appropriate for you, let's slide our left foot straight back. The stability of the shape first, then the left heel grounds. We're going to pull back into that right hamstring. So the hips are square, but that back heel is grounded. Hands staying at heart center or coming across the chest to grab opposite shoulders. Whatever feels like the best for you. We're going to take ourselves into a little forward tilt. And so this just depends on what feels like it allows you to maintain that middle line weight distribution. And then keeping that activity in the front leg, let's bring the torso back up. We will bend the front knee and fully express warrior one. Good, strong core activation. And then roll to warrior two. This should be like a buttery shape here. Just wide open. In comparison, right? In comparison. And then left heel spins up and we're back in crescent. And we'll drop the hands and step to the front of the mat. Settle here. And then when you're ready, right foot slides back. We land, we establish the stability, and then the right heel grounds, left hamstring slides back for that activation. Hands stay at heart center across, whatever feels appropriate. And we'll take ourselves forward into that tilt, little posterior chain activation. Still thinking about keeping the spine long, that drift into length. And then we'll lift ourselves back up, fully express warrior one as we bend the front knee. Good, strong middle body activation. And then that right heel spins up. We are in crescent, hands drop. And we return to the front of the mat. Fluid, easy breath. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. Plant your hands, we'll walk into plank. Slowly lower ourselves to our belly. Flex the quads, get the kneecap lift. Keep the hands right underneath the shoulders with the quads active, kneecaps lifted.
try to lighten the pressure that your hands are making with the mat. And then lift your forehead maybe 1/8 of an inch. Just breaking contact. Really, really delicate little lift there. Light pressure in the hands, active pressure in the quads, kneecaps lifted, tops of the feet are almost certainly anchoring. And we'll hold this for 20 more seconds. And we're breathing, Really important piece of life. And then we can relax, slide our hands underneath our forehead for a little crocodile pose. And just find some ease. We'll give ourselves about 40 more seconds here. When it feels right for you, as it feels right for you. Hands slide back underneath the shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop, we'll curl our toes, lift our seat, find our way back into down dog. Drive that full energy into down dog. Really think about encapsulating that lift and then try to relax so that the tailbone can continue to expand into the space behind you. And then eventually we'll walk our way forward into fold. Inhaling into half lift. Exhaling back into fold. Grabbing opposite elbows and rocking a little side to side. Just this delicate, easy, fluid flow. And then we'll release our hands back down, drift our awareness to our sacrum. We'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Moving all the way back into mountain. Making sure we relax across the shoulders. And then let's slide our left foot straight back and into lunge. We'll ground our left heel. Open up towards warrior two. And we're headed to side angle, traditional alignment. So medial edge, big toe edge of the foot. Think about finding that place where your shoulder really feels like it locks in. And then think about maximizing the top of the head to the hip bone distance. And then we'll pull ourselves back up into warrior two. And now we're going to go towards atypical side. So outside edge, lateral edge, pinky toe edge as we come down. Now there's a little bit more roll responsibility across the shoulder girdle. So I got to really be warmed up before you make that happen. More strength required in the hamstring. And we'll pull ourselves up. Nice there, into two. Left heel spins up. We'll find crescent. Careful with that front hamstring, and then drop the hands. Step to the front of the mat. Relax across the shoulders, breathe. When it feels right for you, as it feels right for you, right foot slides straight back. We'll ground that right heel, find our way into warrior two. Big, wide, expansive shape. Left hand headed down to the medial edge, big toe edge for side angle. Maximizing the distance between the hip and the top of the head. Breathing fluidly. And then eventually back up into warrior two. Find the strength of the shape. And then lateral edge, pinky toe edge. And then eventually warrior two. Right heel spins up. Crescent, hands drop. You step to the front of the mat, relax. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. We'll plant our hands, walk our way back into down dog. Come down to hands and knees. Tabletop, flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Just settling into that child's pose space. So there's this very prosperous kingdom. It's divided up into multiple territories, and each territory is run by its own leader. They all, of course, report to the king, pay their taxes to the king. Well, because the entirety of the kingdom is so prosperous, things are really loosely handled from the authority, the royal authority. And each individual territory has a lot of leeway in how they do things. We'll give ourselves just 20 more seconds here. And then when it feels appropriate, let's let the hands grip in the mat in front of us. We'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. From hands and knees tabletop. Once again, curl your toes, lift your seat, and find down dog. Then that right foot straight back and behind you. And then we'll step our right foot forward and into lunge. From lunge, slide back into your right hamstring. So now both feet are pointed straight towards the front of your mat. And then bend that front knee, sweep yourself up into crescent. And then from crescent, good locked in mid body. Arms can be overhead, slide back into that front hamstring. And then let's just extend the arms and the head towards the front of our room. Really thinking about flat back, good long reach. And then we'll rise back up, rebend that front knee, put the hands down on the mat and step the right foot back and into down dog. Shift forward to plank. Lift the seat back into down dog. Then that left foot straight back and behind you. And then we'll step that left foot forward and into lunge.
Slide back into the left hamstring. Activate that posterior chain. Both toes. The toes on both feet, that's a better way to describe that, pointing straight forward. Then we'll bend that front knee and sweep ourselves up in a crescent. And then we'll slide back into that left hamstring. As we pull back here, we stay strong in the mid body. And then we'll bend that front knee, put the hands down on the mat, step the left foot back into down dog, walk our way forward into fold, inhale into half lift, exhale back into fold, settle in that fold, drift your awareness to your sacrum, we'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae, coming all the way up into mountain. Letting the hands settle at heart center. Sinking the seat back towards chair. Knowing that we have fatigue potential in the hamstrings and space in the hips, really drive that hip space back. And we'll rise back up. Sweep the arms up and overhead. And exhale through forward fold. Inhale into half lift. Hold that half lift. Let the hands slide up to the shins or the thighs, somewhere where you can feel just the slightest amount of pressure, maybe like 1 to 5%. And then use that little bit of extra pressure to help elongate the spine. Keep the spinal column linked so the head's trying to stay out as far as it is as you work your way back into fold. And then settle at the bottom of your fold in a way where you completely let go. We'll plant our hands, walk our way back into what will be the last down dog of class. Drive that energy up, energize from the hands, get that lift. Yes, nice, Heather. We'll shift forward into plank. Slowly, gently, delicately lower ourselves down to our belly. And we just keep the hands right where they are, squeeze those elbows in, get the core taut, quads flex, forehead lifts, go maybe a ½ inch here. Staying really strong in the middle of the body. Really thinking about how you create that strength. Last 15 seconds here. And we'll relax, let our head come down, find an easy, fluid breath. Really just finding our way back into a breath that is supportive of our practice. Last 15 seconds here. And then when it feels appropriate, slide our hands back underneath our shoulders. We'll press ourselves up to hands and knees tabletop. Our hands and knees tabletop, we'll extend our legs straight out in front of us. And then bring the bottoms of the feet together. The knees fall out wide so you can find a little seated butterfly.
Hands can clasp here over the toe mounds or the ankles or the shins, something that works for our body. And then we're going to start to tilt forward. If you can get the elbows out in front of the shins, that can be super helpful. Or just getting a little tilt to that back musculature. This removes the hamstring limitation, but emphasizes the hip limitation. But it is a great shape to spend a little bit of time in each day. It will dramatically improve not only your total body flexibility, but the functionality of the lumbar. We're going to give ourselves just 30 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, we'll walk our spine back towards vertical and we'll head onto our backs. Letting the spine receive the mat. Especially impactful after that nice, long, seated fold. And we'll just breathe here for a moment just to feel and appreciate what we've crafted for ourselves. And then we'll inhale and bring our knees together. Bring our knees to a neutral place where the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling would be a better way to describe that. And then let's let the knees start a little dynamic sway. A little exploration of what is possible here. Arms can be wherever's comfortable. And then the next time the knees fall over to the left, let's let them stay there. And so for a very long time, this kingdom was incredibly prosperous. And then a drought came. And all of these prosperous territories, except for one, started to fail. The drought affected the crops, which affected
the livestock, which affected blacksmiths, which affected on and on down the economic chain. And so all of these territories that have been prosperous forever, that have been paying taxes forever, are now asking for funds from the kingdom, except one. One of these territories was the exact opposite. It was actually thriving more than ever. And so the king, being a wise king, set off for that territory with his guard to figure out what exactly was going on there. When they arrived, they found the place remarkably green for the drought they were in. When you're ready, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And then we'll let the knees fall over to the second side. And so the king and his guard start asking people on the street if they've been experiencing this drought. The first couple of people they ask don't understand what they're asking. They don't speak the same language. And that is very peculiar because there is an official language of the kingdom. They ask 4 or 5 people, finally they get the answer. It seems like they're experiencing the drought like everyone else. They look around and things are just as they would appear to have been years ago. People are thriving. They ask where the leader of the territory is, and they ask a couple people, and they don't speak the same language. Finally, they find someone who does, and they get pointed up to this house on the hill. They head up, they meet the leader of this territory, and he welcomes them into to his home. The king asks him, do you guys experience the drought? And he says, of course we have. The entire kingdom has. And then one of the king's guards jumps in and says, why are there people not speaking the official language of the kingdom? And the leader of this territory, he points to this huge oak tree outside and he says, do you see that oak tree? And everybody looks out. There's a huge oak tree in the middle of this backyard. And they're like, yeah, we see the oak tree. And then the member of the guard repeats the question, why are there members of your territory not speaking the official language? And the leader of the territory gets up, he goes outside, he picks a leaf off of this oak tree, brings it back inside, and he hands it to the guardsman. And he says, if I told you to make that into a thriving oak tree, could you? The guardsman shakes his head, throws the leaf on the ground, and repeats the question about the language. When it feels appropriate for you, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. And as we settle in here, we'll just ask ourselves if there's anything that we might want, need, or benefit from prior to Shavasana. If there is, we'll offer it to ourselves now. If we have everything that we could possibly need, then we'll settle into a shape where we can appreciate some stillness.
We'll just drift easily into a breath that supports that stillness. So after throwing down this leaf from the oak tree, the guardsman once again repeats the question: why are you allowing people to not speak the official language of the kingdom? And the leader of this territory says, points back out to the oak tree. And he says, our territory here, our community here, like the oak tree, needs all parts to thrive. The oak tree can't thrive without its roots, its trunk, its branches, its leaves. Our community here, we've benefited greatly. People from the west have come and they've brought their irrigation techniques. They've changed the way we use water. People from the east have come and they brought low water crops, drought resistant herbs. And the builders from the north came and they brought us ways to store water. And our friends from the south, they came with ideas of how to stay cool. Together here in this territory, all of these diverse ideas have merged, and we've become a much stronger community because of it. And we're thriving where other territories are not. We'll start to bring some movement to our fingers and our toes, into our wrists and our ankles, our elbows and our knees, shoulders and hips. Neck, head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of the body will move, and we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are currently in, and we'll return to the seat the way we started class. Spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. And with our next inhale, we'll bring our hands together, heart center. And over the course of the next 7 days, can you be observant of and appreciative of the diversity that makes up our world, your community, your space, and see how those bonds can be strengthened. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste. Appreciate the heck out of you guys. Happy Monday. No Sunday class this weekend for holiday travel, but we'll be back for Monday, and hopefully I'll have a little special holiday gift out there too. Love the heck out of you. Mwah.